So in today's session, we are discussing about workflows, guys. Okay, we'll go to the personal developer instance. Okay, we'll go to the workflows. Okay, this is the workflow that we created in our previous session. Okay, checkout by system administrator. We'll go to the checkout step. So after the approval, it is actually waiting for 5 minutes. Then it is creating the catalog task. Okay, timer activity will wait for certain period of time, guys. So if you want to wait for certain period of time, if you want to hold the workflow for certain period of time, then you will use timer activity. Okay. So, well, here in the workflow, we have few other activities. So I did tell you. So I told you yesterday that if you want to create a catalog task, we will use catalog task activity. If I have to create a incident or problem or any change request which is extending task table, so which activity do we use, guys? You tell me. Tell me, guys, which activity do we use? Everyone. For creating the incident or problem or change request which is extending task table, which activity do we use? For that, we have to use create task activity. Create task activity. Okay. So using this activity, we can create a incident, problem, or change request that is extending task table. Suppose if I have to create a record on the user table, or if I have to create a record on the group table, so then what we have to do? We have to use a run script activity. In the run script activity, we can write a glide record to create a record. We can use run script activity to write the server side script in the workflow. Okay. Okay. Now we will understand even more in detail. Okay. First of all, we'll submit the catalog item. We'll submit the catalog item. You submit the form. Okay. So here you can see we can add manual approvals. See, this approval is automatically created, right? So I'm actually adding some manual approvals. Okay. So this Adam, this able tutor, I have added some manual approvals here. So this manager approval is created automatically. This manager approval is created automatically, but I am actually adding this manual approval. Okay. I am adding this manual approvals. What if I have to, if the workflow has to wait for this manual approval as well? If the workflow has to wait for manual approvals, in the workflow, you have to use an activity called manual approval. Manual approvals. Wait for manual approval. All manual users, any manual user or group approval, all manual user or group approval. The first response from any manual approval. Okay. Any manual user or group approval. Okay. If it is rejected, then it has to go this side. So what happens now? This workflow activity will wait for the manual approvals as well. Now let me just try to submit the catalog form again. Okay. Now you can what the workflow will wait for manual approvals as well. We'll now see here. Now the workflow is waiting here. I am just approving the automatically created approval. Now you can see the workflow is waiting for this particular manual approvals. The workflow is waiting for manual approvals. If once the manual approval is approved, once the manual approval is approved, okay, the workflow will move forward. The workflow will move forward. Now it is actually waiting for a certain period of time, 5 minutes, and then it will actually create the catalog task. So here, what is the importance of this manual tasks and all? Everybody is clear, right? Hmm? Everyone. Okay. Suppose if I have to send a group approval as well, if I have to send a group approval as well, okay, okay. Approval group activity I am taking. So if you take approval group activity, it will send an approval to the group members, guys. So it will actually send an approval to the group members. Group approval. Okay. Guys, here in the answer dot push, you have to pass the group system ID. You have to check the advanced checkbox. You have to check the advanced checkbox. Okay. In the advanced checkbox, in the answer dot push. Okay. Answer is actually a JavaScript array. In that array, you have to pass the group system ID. The group system ID. Okay. We'll go to the groups under user administration. We'll go to the groups. Take any group system ID. Let us take ServiceNow developers group system ID. I'm taking. Okay, it will actually send an approval to the group members, guys. Okay. So if it is rejected, you just take this one here. Okay. So first of all, what we are doing, we are actually sending an approval to the manager, department head. Then we are sending an approval to the ServiceNow developers group. Then we are actually waiting for manual approvals. Once all these approvals are completed, then we are marking it as approved. Okay. First of all, we are sending department head approval. Then we are sending group approval. Then we are actually waiting for manual approvals. Okay. So now what am I doing is I am going to submit the catalog form. Okay. So now you can see it has sent an approval to the department head. Okay. Once it is approved, it will actually create a group approvals. You can just click on show workflow. It is waiting for the group approvals. Once they approved it, you can see group approval is created here. So once they approved it, okay, then there is no manual approval we added here. There is no manual approval we have added here. Then the workflow will move forward. Then the workflow will move forward. Okay, now it is waiting for 5 minutes, and then it will actually create the catalog task. Okay, so here, if the department had rejected 3 times, if the department had rejected 3 times, only then it should be considered as rejection. If the department had rejected approval 3 times, then only then we should consider we should consider as rejection. Okay. Okay. So here in this case, we have to use a rollback to activity. Rollback to activity will move the workflow towards backward direction. So if manager rejected, it will be sending the approval again. So we have to limit only 3 times. When manager rejected 3 times, we should be considered as rejection. Then how to limit is that we can use turnstile activity. Turnstile activity is used how many times a workflow can pass through the same activity. So turnstile activity is used to limit 3 times. Okay, iterations. First time I'm giving 2 here. Okay. Here, if the department had rejected 3 times, only then it will be considered as rejection, or else it won't be considered as rejection, guys. Okay. So we'll submit the catalog form again. Yeah, adding a manual approval as well. Okay, so here this is actually department head approval. I am rejecting it one time. Okay, I have rejected one time. Still it is in the requested state. So rejecting second time. I am rejecting it second time. Still it is in the requested state. I am rejecting third time. Okay. You can see now the approval state is marked as rejected. So only when you reject three times, it will be considered as rejection. If you go to the workflow, you can see here, the workflow has actually, if it is rejected three times, only then the workflow is actually as rejection. Now the workflow is actually completed here. You can see the path. From here, it has come here and it has come here. Okay. You understand, right? We have another activity called approval coordinator activity in the workflow. That approval coordinator activity is used to send user approvals, group approvals, manual approvals all at a time. Okay. So instead of this user approval, group approval, manual approvals, we can take one, we can take one approval coordinator activity. All approvals at a time. Okay. Department head approval. Current dot variables dot requested by dot okay. It will send an approval to the department head. Approval user activity I have taken. Approval group. And manual approval as well. Okay. So if it is approved, then if it is rejected, okay. Okay. So here we are sending all approvals at a time. Okay. I am submitting the catalog form again. Okay. I can also add manual approval as well. Once I approve the user approval, okay. So this one user approval I have provided. Then group approval I am providing. Group approval I am providing. Now here it is waiting for manual approval. Then just click on workflow here. No, it did not wait for the manual approval. We'll go to the workflow. All child activities to be approved. All child activities to be approved. It is right. But here in this case, it did not wait for the manual approval. Madam is actually a manual approval that is added, but it is not waiting for the manual approval. Ideally, it should wait for the manual approval. I'm adding a manual approval now. Able tutor is actually a manual approval. It is not waiting for the manual approval. You have to go to the workflow and check. This is approval user, right? This is manual. Okay. So here, this approval coordinator activity will send all the approvals at a time. It will wait for all the approvals. Then it will actually, once all the approvals are provided, then it will move forward. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you can also use rollback to activity and turnstile activity for approval coordinator as well. This approval coordinate rollback to and turnstile activity can also be used for approval coordinator activity as well. Okay. So likewise, we will be managing the approvals in the workflow, guys. Okay. In the workflow, in the workflow, if you want to pass a value from this activity to this activity, this activity to this activity. So if you want to pass a value from one activity to another activity, suppose here I am selecting, I am just storing a value called, okay, I am storing a value called Narendra Modi. So that Narendra Modi value, I am storing in a scratchpad variable. Workflow.scratchpad.pm equal to Narendra Modi. Flow.scratchpad.pm is equal to Narendra Modi. So here, this is a variable name. This is called workflow scratchpad variable name. So in this PM variable, I stored Narendra Modi value. Okay, this Narendra Modi value, if I want to use in every activity, then I can use this workflow.scratchpad.pm. Okay, so I can call that activity. I can use that Narendra Modi name. So task.short description is equal to workflow.scratchpad.variable name. So here, in place of this workflow.scratchpad.pm, you will get Narendra Modi name. So that means in the catalog task short description, you are passing Narendra Modi name. Let me just remove this timer activity. Okay. So here in this activity, I stored Narendra Modi name in the workflow scratchpad variable. So that workflow scratchpad variable, I can access any activity. I can access in the any activity. Okay. So if you want to pass a value from one activity to another activity, if you want to pass a value from one activity to another activity, we have to use workflow.scratchpad.variable name. Okay. We have to use yes, Govardhan. Yes. Workflow.scratchpad.variable name. Okay. So now let me just try to submit the catalog form. Okay. Once it is approved, it will create a catalog task. So in the catalog task, the short description, Narendra Modi name will be populated. Nothing is populated. Task.short description is equal to workflow.scratchpad.pm. You wrote it right. Here we did not save look like. Here we did not save it, guys. That is the problem. Okay. We'll submit the form now. So I'm approving this too. Now you can see in the short description, Narendra Modi name has come. So that means I have carried a value from this activity to this activity. To pass a value from one activity to another activity, in the workflow scratchpad variable, you have to store a value. In the workflow.scratchpad variable, you have to store a value. In the workflow.scratchpad variable, you have to store a value. Okay. Okay. Task.short description is equal to workflow.scratchpad variable name. So here you are setting Narendra Modi value. Okay. So likewise, you can pass a value from one activity to another activity in the workflow using workflow.scratchpad.variable name. So here you can call another workflow within this workflow. Okay. We can call another workflow within this workflow. So I am going to call change request, emergency change request workflow in this workflow. Okay. So submit this one. So what am I doing? I am calling another workflow in this workflow. You can call another workflow in this workflow, guys. If you want to pass value from one workflow to another workflow, if you want to pass value from one workflow to another workflow, this is parent workflow. This is actually this is a child workflow. If you want to pass a value from one workflow to another workflow, in this child workflow, uh, okay, change request emergency, right? In this workflow, you have to create inputs. Okay, in this workflow, you have to create inputs. Edit inputs, create a new input. String type of field. These are actually workflow fields, guys. Okay. Catalog, task, ID, mandatory. Catalog, task, ID. Okay. So that catalog task ID you will get here. Catalog task ID. So now what am I doing is here in the catalog task, whenever the catalog task is created, what am I doing is workflow dot workflow dot scratchpad dot task ID is equal to task dot this ID. Task dot sysid. Okay. So then what you have to do is, here you are passing workflow.scratchpad.task ID. So you are passing workflow.scratchpad.task ID in this particular task ID field that you created as input. Okay. So from this workflow, see here in this workflow, this is a parent workflow. Resignation form workflow is a parent workflow, and emergency change request workflow is a child workflow. So if you want to pass value from parent workflow to child workflow, you have to create an input in the child workflow. In that input, you have to pass a scratchpad variable. Okay. What if you want to pass value from child workflow to parent workflow? In the parent workflow, you have to use an activity called return value. You have to use an activity called return value activity. If you use return value activity in the workflow, child workflow, whatever the value that you specified in the return value, that you will be getting as an output here. You can see map return value to workflow.scratchpad dot scratchpad dot final output. Final output. Okay. So if you want to pass a value from parent workflow to child workflow, in the child workflow there should be inputs created. In that input you can write workflow.scratchpad.variable. This is the input that we created in the child workflow. If you want to pass a value from child workflow to parent workflow, in the child workflow you have to use an activity called return value activity. The return value activity, whatever the value that you specified, that you will be receiving as a output here. So workflow.scratchpad.final output. So in this scratchpad variable, you are storing the output. Okay. Likewise, you can use you can call a workflow within the workflow. So you can pass value from parent workflow to child workflow. You can pass values from child workflow to parent workflow. Okay. So guys, here in the workflow, majorly we have discussed about scripting current object. Current object refers to on the table where we created workflow. So current dot variables dot requested by is used, current dot variables dot requested by is used to you know to current dot variables is used to get the catalog variable values in the workflow. So task dot field name, task dot short description. So if you want to fill the catalog task field values or incident field values, problem field values, you'll use task dot description or description. Okay. Then we have used workflow dot scratchpad dot variable name. So this workflow dot scratchpad dot variable name is used to carry value from one activity to another activity. So similarly, guys, we can run the workflow using scripting. So here, if you want to run this workflow, if you want to trigger this workflow using scripting, you can also trigger the workflow using scripting. So we have to use a API called workflow API. New workflow dot start flow. The workflow system ID, comma current object, comma operation is that insert or update operation. Likewise, you can start the workflow using script as well. A new workflow dot start workflow. If you want to restart the workflow, you can also restart the workflow. New workflow dot the workflow system ID, the current object, insert or update. Okay, you can cancel the workflow as well. New workflow dot. So you can chart the workflow using script. You can restart the workflow using script. You can restart workflow. Restart. You can restart the workflow using scripting. You can cancel the workflow using scripting. Suppose, guys, you created a catalog. You submitted a catalog form. Request item is created. If you don't want this catalog, the requested item, if you cancel this one, associated workflow also should be cancelled, right? So associated workflow also should be cancelled. So to cancel the workflow using scripting, we will use new workflow.cancel and the context ID of the workflow. So likewise, you can start the workflow using scripting. You can restart the workflow using scripting. You can cancel the workflow using scripting. So if you go to the developer.servicenow.com, in the developer.servicenow.com, if you go to the reference, if you go to the APIs, go to the server side APIs, just use workflow here. Hit workflow. You can see workflow, broadcast event, cancel. This cancel is used to cancel all the running workflows on this particular record by broadcasting the cancel event to activities in the all the running workflows on this particular record. To cancel the workflow, we'll use this activity. You can see new workflow dot cancel the current record. Okay. Cancel context. If you want to cancel only one single context, cancel this running context by broadcasting cancel event to all the activities in the workflow context. Okay. Particular context, if you want to cancel, you will use. Likewise, you can actually go through this workflow API so that you will be able to understand how to cancel the workflows, how to start the workflows using scripting and all. So this is the workflow API. Okay. So hope you guys are clear with the workflows concept. Why do we use workflows and all? Everyone? Waiting everyone, you can answer me. Hello.
Yeah, yes, so we are able to understand.
So tomorrow we are going to understand about record producers, guys. Okay.
Sir, what is meant by context ID?
So context ID means every time when you submit the catalog form, request item will be created, right? For every requested item, a workflow context will be attached. So this is called workflow context. This is called workflow context. For every requested item, there will be a separate workflow context attached. If you go to the application navigator, all contexts. So here we have created different catalog items, right? For every requested item, there is a separate workflow context. So in today, how many we submitted? So these all are submitted today itself, right? So these are the context IDs that are created for every requested item. You getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So likewise, the workflows are used. The workflows can be created on any table, but if you have to create a workflow for catalog item, then you have to create a workflow on the requested item table. So these workflows are used to automate the process in ServiceNow, guys. Okay. Okay. Okay, guys, then we'll see you there in tomorrow's session and in a new topic with a new topic called record producers topic. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.